Regina George was stranded on an island and killed a boar with a stick. So now I want to be stranded on an island so I can kill a boar with a stick. So, last weekend, I had the pleasure of watching Send Help with a couple of my friends, and I'm going to try to go, no spoilers to mild spoilers before going into, a full spoiler discussion about the movie. But short version is, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was fantastic. It's definitely a Sam Raimi film where there are some parts in this movie where I was like, that is just gross. And a lot of the times when that would happen, it was gross in really fun ways where I'm like, dude, I'm just laughing at let me rephrase that. I'm not laughing at what I'm watching. I'm laughing with what I'm watching because it's very clearly meant to be over the top. It's meant to be goofy, and it was great. I had such a good time. And it wasn't a packed house, but there were a decent amount of people in there as well. And there were just parts where the whole theater was laughing. Everyone was getting into it. And I'm really glad. I feel like I should start by saying the vibe I had going into the movie. Because I think the first trailer I saw was during the Survivor finale, which came into play because it turns out that Linda, which is Rachel McAdams' character, is a really big fan of Survivor. And there is this one really funny bit where she puts on season 40 several and is like, oh, I really hope Keyshawn doesn't go home today. And I'm like, okay, I know exactly what season she's talking about just from seeing the number. But now that she has named a specific contestant, I know exactly which point in the show she's watching. And it's probably the episode where he gets booted, which, as a Survivor fan, is just, kind of fun and kind of neat. But I'm also, if I'm remembering correctly, it's after he gets booted because Genevieve just, pulls a move. He just looks over to her and just says, I trusted you. Which is honestly really good foreshadowing for the movie. Especially the scene that's right about to happen, which, if you've seen the trailers, she's, promised a big job, and she doesn't get it. And it is just kind of that, she doesn't say that to Bradley, her boss, but there is that, I trusted you, and now that, that trust has been broken. And, that, they actually managed to, what am I trying to say? What's the term I'm trying to use? Product placement. Thank you. It's they basically took product placement and made it foreshadowing. And I just think that's really cool, and I think that's really fun. My point is, I'd seen that trailer, and the vibe that I had gotten was this was basically going to be Misery. Not that I'd be miserable watching it, but the Stephen King story. Not that this is an author that's being trapped by a fan, but that this is someone who is now heavily injured and is relying on the care of someone else. And this someone else starts out friendly, but as it goes along, they start to get kind of mad with power, whether that's because they're just a terrible person, whether that's because of the dynamic that they already have, they start to abuse that position. That was the vibe I had going into the film. And as it was going on, I wasn't quite getting that vibe. There's this one scene pretty early, when they're on the island, where Bradley's just ordering Linda. He's like, hey, why don't you do this? Hey, why don't you do this? Because she's doing really well being able to survive, put stuff together, because she's really into survivalist stuff. She's been applying to be on Survivor. And Bradley's, just a jerk with a messed up leg. And there's a point where Linda just leaves him for, I think it was the rest of that day. And then you just get this montage. This is one of the points that the whole theater was laughing, where he's just checking his watch, all right, haha, funny, whatever. And then, like, you know, montage a bit later, like, all right, like, I get it, like, come on. And then just, like, slowly getting more frustrated, but then slowly, like, starting to dehydrate and getting exhausted. And then she comes back and is like, okay, like, you ready to listen? You ready to let me help you? But you ready to do, like, you know, not be a piece of shit? It's great. But after that, once they actually start working together to survive, the vibes aren't off. I'm like, this is less misery and almost more, what's the film, like 6 Days and 7 Nights, the, like, Harrison Ford rom-com where he gets stranded on an island with somebody. Where, yeah, like, the vibes aren't good, they don't like each other, but after working together, you know, they start to bond, they start to connect. Regina George kills a boar with a stick. Dude, the boar, like, that whole scene is so funny to me because the boar looks like, it's so fake in the best way. Or, like, this is CG, like, this is fake, this clearly wasn't there. But it's so over the top with its design. It's like, it feels like they're like, I don't care that this looks fake. I care that this looks cool, and I care that this looks fun. And it was cool, and it was fun. Like, she stabs it, and it dies. And then it, like, comes back to life and starts snapping at her again, like, going further down into the spear to bite her, which is causing blood to go everywhere. Like, like, never change Sam Raimi. This was fantastic. Oh yeah, speaking of, like, violent moments, there's a scene during the plane crash where, like, as a dude goes flying out of the plane, his necktie catches, like, on the door. And so you just see him, like, getting, like, banging against the side of the plane, and then he's like, Linda, help, and there's nothing she can do. But you see, like, his face getting kind of torn, so she just closes the window. It was another one of those, like, this is violent, this is gross, and the whole theater is laughing. I genuinely feel like the last thing I can really say without spoilers or without kind of hinting at other things in the movie is there's a big scene, I want to say halfway through. I don't know if it's, like, actually in terms of the runtime about halfway through, where Linda and Bradley are having dinner together. They have, like, a nice fire going, and they sit and they share their backstories with each other. And it's a very vulnerable moment between the two of them. And it is definitely the point in the movie where the tone, not to say one way or the other, but the tone of the movie definitely changes after this scene. So, staying with non-spoilers, as you could clearly tell, I loved this film. I cannot recommend it enough. Yes, there are some parts that are violent. Yes, there are some parts that are just gross. But it's in a very fun, over-the-top kind of way. But if you get squeamish easily, you're probably not going to enjoy it. But if you don't mind that, or if, like, you're all for it, absolutely go watch this movie. That all being said, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, spoilers are now live. So the reason the bonfire scene is such a big turning point is that, as I said, both of them share their stories. Bradley's story is like, no, like, I didn't really know my father. He wasn't a very good person. I don't think he was a very good father. And my mother is someone who is also very abusive. And I understand why she is the way that she is. But it doesn't make it hurt any less. While also kind of realizing that, like, you know, part of my personality and the way I treat people does probably stem from the relationship I had with my parents. And Linda's story is, I used to be married, and my husband passed away. He was horribly abusive, and he was a terrible drinker. And whenever he would get really drunk, I would hide his keys. And there was one night where I just couldn't take it anymore. So I gave him his keys. And that was the night he died. And after she shares that, she says to Bradley, I don't remember exactly how she phrases it, but it's something along the lines of, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back. Maybe we should just stay here. And that is the turning point of the film, because to me, I think you can interpret Bradley in a few different ways. You can interpret his actions throughout the film in a few different ways. Because even before that, I think there are some moments where he's kind of doing things by himself. You don't really see what he's doing, and you find out later he is working on a raft so he can escape. And there's an argument that maybe he did intend to escape with Linda. This was just something he was doing on his own. Maybe genuinely in a sense of good faith. Like, hey, you've been doing a lot for me. You've been helping me survive. I am working on a raft, and we can do this together. We can both escape. I'm trying to do a nice surprise for you. And after that moment in the bonfire, he realizes, I don't want to spend another moment around this person. Number one, she just told me, she didn't confess to murder. I'm sorry, I didn't even go from, a legal perspective, okay, so that's not murder. What you did was definitely negligent, but, you could someone could probably sue you for wrongful death, but I don't think they'd win, but, they're, for all intents and purposes, this person just told me she was in a very bad relationship and then got the other person killed. And our working relationship has been really, really bad. There's a chance she might want to hurt me. I need to get out of here. Also, she just told me something she has never told another person. And she's right to have never told another person this, and is now saying we should stay here. She's not going to help me leave. She's not going to let me leave this island with that knowledge. I have to go now and save myself. So, he makes her dinner. He poisons her. He specifically uses food that she had showed him was poisonous. And as she is sick, she's, getting passed out, he leaves, grabs his raft, goes into the water, starts paddling, and he goes, fuck you, Linda! And he's just, making those sounds. And I am, cracking up. This guy is so awful. He is so, over the top, hilariously awful. And then this giant wave just, comes and, hits the raft, and the raft breaks, and he watches it put shore. And then Linda grabs him while she's still sick, and just throws up all over him and is giving him CPR. And then Bradley, wakes up and just gets puked on his that whole segment was comedy gold. It was so mean. It was so nasty. But I was eating it up, man. Oh, it was great. But huge turning point in the film. Because after that first bonfire, it is Bradley, to me, realizing, I have to make my move, and I have to make it now. And he has to make it without her. And when he's escaping, there is no, I gotta get out of here, and after what you did to your husband, like, I don't trust you. There's no, like, I'm sorry, fuck you. It's so like, oh, like, no, this guy is just awful. This dude is just horrible. Maybe that backstory he gave was just to make himself seem sympathetic. You know, all those, like, little 6 days and 7 nights moments. It was all manipulative. Like that. It's the moment where he loses all sympathy. Because even if I understand he's so mean and over the top about it, I'm like, I don't feel sorry for whatever's about to happen to you now. And then the rest of the movie happens, and I'm like, oh, never mind. Because I'm losing sympathy for Linda too. Which is an element of the film I really liked. Is by the end, I'm like, I don't know which of you two I'm rooting for. Because, like, Bradley's awful. But Linda crosses some lines. So let's get to that. So after the raft and the food poisoning and the puking, the next day, Bradley's just kind of sitting there like, hey, sorry. You know, you might not believe me, but I wasn't trying to kill you. Just needed to, you know, knock you out a bit while I made my escape. She's like, I understand. It's okay. You know, like, honestly, you did a pretty good job with the raft. You know, you should have used some different knots. I didn't teach you those. You know, that's on me. But hey, I mean, good thing they didn't. Otherwise, I'd be mad myself. And then gives him, like, a kebab, and he eats it, and blah, blah, blah. And then he can't move. And he's like, yeah, that's a blue-ringed octopus. You know, I caught one pretty early on. I kept it, like, as kind of a just in case. Like, in case I might need this thing. I'm real glad I did. Because, it's a neurotoxin where you can't move and you can't feel anything. You're going to be really, really glad you can't feel anything, Bradley. And she has this knife that washed up on shore. Which, when she first mentions that, I'm like, okay, so, like, it was, I guess it's from the plane wreck, like, it washed up from the wreck. Not where it came from, but I'm like, oh, okay. Like, that probably makes more sense, but you did just come from a plane crash. Like, I could see things washing up, like, from the wreckage. There's also a point earlier on in the film where she talks about how, like, hey, don't go to this part of the island because, like, it's really dangerous and really bad. And that wasn't long after a boat came to find any survivors, and she's like, oh, shoot, like, I'm not going to tell Bradley. So I just figured that part of the island is, like, that's where the boat was, like, that's where the search party is. Not exactly correct, which we'll get to in a bit, but, you know, kind of on the right track. But she takes the knife and, like, puts it in the fire, and then is like, okay, so this is what we're gonna do. Even if you say you didn't try to kill me, I'll believe you, but, you know, like, you did hurt me, and you did leave me behind. Like, that's not okay. Because we're not in the office anymore. You know, we play by different rules now. So, if you're being disobedient, you know what you do to a disobedient dog? You fix them. And she takes off his pants, and she takes off his underwear, and, like, looks him in the eye and is like, all right, here we go. And she stabs down the knife, and Bradley, you know, like, can't feel it, but knows what's happening, and, like, he can't move, so he's not squirming, but you can, like, hear just the, as, you know, and then you've got, like, all of this blood. She's like, oh, you're a real bleeder, ain't you? And there's a shot from the trailer, which is in this scene, of him just sitting there, and, like, a tear rolling down his eye. And then she holds up a dead rat. And, like, come on. Like, no, I didn't do that to you. I mean, come on. I'm not like you. I'm not a monster. But if something like this happens again, it's not going to be a rat. Don't mistake my kindness for weakness again. And then she gets up and leaves. And just that scene, I think I wrote in my notes, is just like the rat scene was so deeply uncomfortable. And like I said, there's a lot of points in the movie that are like violent or gross, and they're fun, and you could feel like the whole theater like getting into it, everyone is laughing. This was a moment that was just silent and was just so deeply uncomfortable. And as soon as the rat pops up, like, okay, like the tension is eased. You kind of feel people be like, okay, like, do I laugh now? Am I still deeply disconcerted? I don't know how to feel. But she leaves Bradley, starts walking around gathering stuff, and there's another search party, including Suri, who is Bradley's fiance, who seems to love him very much, and like the boat captain, and she's like, Linda, it's so nice to see you, did anyone else make it? Is it just you? Like, oh yeah, there's Bradley, oh, I gotta go find him. So Linda takes them to like a cliff, and there's a part of the cliff that where it's not exactly steady ground, and yeah, she lets them die. And afterwards, she's just very down, like, and she's like, I'm taking a sick day, I can't do anything. And like, there's this shot of her sitting there and the knife positioned, and it looks like the knife is just in her back and Bradley standing behind her, and I'm like, oh, I love that shot. That is so good. That's so cool. And after that is like Bradley is going around the island, kind of doing his own, like, let's gather, let's find stuff. Finds his fiance's. So she's like badly buried in the sand, but her hand is sticking out with the very obvious ring. And he realizes what happens, and he starts crying and he starts grieving, and then he goes and confronts Linda. He's like, yeah, you killed her, like you killed your husband, and he pulls out the knife, and then you get to the climax, and the climax is great. Like, there's a point where, like, I think she gets the knife and she stabs him, like he's trying to gouge out one of her eyes. I think he rips off part of her hair, part of her scalp. So, you've got Regina George like missing part of her scalp, her eye hanging out, and this other dude like getting stabbed and can barely walk, and it's violent, it's gross, and it's just like feral, and it's great. And then he like runs from her and goes to that other part of the island, and there's just a house. There's just someone's house. Like, what? And then he goes into the house, and like, he's trying to call for help, and she gets there first. Is like, yeah, you believe that a knife just washed up on shore? Like, man, you are pretty, but you are dumb, boy. So he just explains, I'm like, yeah, like, I found this really early. This is some rich dude's home. He doesn't live here right now because it's off season, but, there were people that brought supplies, so I'll just, like, come here, get some supplies, and they help. I also, can just come here and eat or drink when I need to. It's been fantastic. And she comes out of a room holding a shotgun. Bradley gets on his knees and he starts begging for his life. And in this moment, I thought to myself, she said during the rat scene, it's not going to be a rat next time. And don't mistake my kindness for weakness. So now that she has him dead to rights, and he's begging for his life, I can see her, like, listening to his plea and then just shooting him anyways. Maybe she does specifically, like, aim the gun down and then shoot. Maybe she just shoots him in the head. I mean, she could shoot him in either head. I don't know, but it's like, I think she's just gonna shoot him. But then she, like, lowers the gun, like, as in, like, lowering her guard, but then realizes that there's, like, these bull sculptures but one is missing a horn because Bradley has it, and then he attacks her, and he gets the gun and he shoots her, but it's out of ammo, it wasn't loaded. So I don't know if Linda knew it, because you don't find out. It's like, I don't know if she knew the gun wasn't loaded and it was just a test of Bradley's character, or if she thought it was loaded, but then was like, all right, I'm going to let you go. Then they kind of start scrumming, and then he's on, like, she gets a golf club and just beats him, and he's on the ground. And there was a shot earlier in the movie of Bradley in his office where he, like, is golfing, and he hits a thing, and, like, he hits the ball, and it goes into the thing, and like, boom! And I remembered that when it happened, I was like, this is kind of going to live in my head rent-free for the next hour and a half, 2 hours. This is coming back. Like, though, just kind of the emphasis on it. This is coming back. So Bradley's on the ground. She has, the golf club and just swings it right at his head. And then it immediately cuts to her on a golf course. Like a year later after escaping the island. And when she gets the hole-in-one, boom. So the epilogue of the film is Linda has escaped. She is the only survivor. She is now the head of the company. She's doing really well for herself, wrote a successful book, and then she breaks the fourth wall a couple times as she, like, drives off into the sunset. And that was the film. And I also just don't know if the epilogue should be taken at face value or not. Because on the one hand, I'm like, okay, like, I can definitely believe that she killed him. She was able to use her, because they were like, oh yeah, like, after that, you escaped, like, you survived for a bit, and then you escaped on a raft. And, like, yeah, I can 100% believe with her survival skills and knowledge she'd be able to do so. But a lot of it is also just, like, the active fourth wall breaking does not happen anywhere else in the film. And it's something that just kind of made me go, is this because it's like a dream sequence? Is this because this is just her fantasy? Like, do I also believe that she would become the head of the company? I mean, when a lot of the top dogs are no longer there and everyone knows, like, how good she is at her job, I could buy it, but I don't know if I guess it's one of those, it's like, I can definitely buy it, but there's enough little, that's a little weird, that's a little weird, where I'm just not sure, and I do really like that. Because I'm also thinking to myself, it's like, does this house not have security? Like, it has security systems, and she's like, oh, from a huge distance, I could memorize what, they were putting in. I was like, that's a little bullshit. But I'm like, is there no cameras? Because this looks like this is a wealthy person's, like, little resort area. Does he not have any cameras? Because, well, no, because even then, like, she's watching Bradley on camera. So you could watch the camera, see what happened. Like, I don't know if she would become a huge CEO with, that kind of evidence lying around. But, sorry, I just wanted to see, do I have any other notes about the film? No, I do not. But, yeah, that was how it ended. And I kind of like that, number one, throughout the climax, like, I don't know who I'm supposed to root for, because Bradley is awful. But it's hard to root for Linda after the rat scene, and it's like, you also lose all sympathy after the, after murdering 2 people. But I enjoyed that. And I like that there's a lot in the epilogue to make me go, I could see this being a face value ending, and I could see it not be, and I think that's kind of fun. But overall, enjoyed the movie. Loved the movie. Like, don't watch it if you're too squeamish. But other than that, yeah, go see Regina George kill a pig with a spear.